Greetings, friends, and welcome to another episode of The Mistake Zone, your weekly dose of our lives and the mistakes within them. My name is Jaren Wade. Joining me, as always, one of my best friends in the whole wide world, Matt Alba. Hey, Matt.
Yo.
How are you doing?
Yo, I'm doing good.
Matt, that's great. We're here another week, and that means another installment of the Mistake Zone. And Matt, I know a few weeks ago, I believe, when we were trying to pick, inside baseball once again, peek behind the curtains. We were trying to pick the show art for our blog at mistake.zone or SaturdayMorningArcade.com. And that was our Maniko's Night Market City Skylines 2 episode.
Yes.
And I sent you a few screens of some NPCs, some friends that Maniko has met along the way. And I believe one of them said that, that's tomorrow's Tommy problem or something like that. Matt, I'm expecting some tomorrow Tommy problems today.
Oh no, Jared. What happened?
And let's just say that I've been eating a lot of spicy noodles, and there's only one ending for some spicy noodles.
Oh no, Jared.
But Matt, we're going back to some Maniko's Night Market, but we're also going back, Matt, to last week. I hear you've still been playing some WarioWare Move It.
Yeah, Jared, I've been having... Okay, rephrase. I was having a lot of fun with WarioWare Move It.
Oh no, that's some alarming past tense, Matt.
Jaren, actually, funnily enough, this also has to do with a butt-related problem.
Okay.
Jaren, I was playing WarioWare way too hard. And Jaren, I discussed last week when we were talking about WarioWare that one of the poses is squat.
Yes.
And Jaren, I was doing a squat game, and the kind of essence of this game is that you need to in the micro game, there's a conveyor belt with basically balloons going by it, and you need to pop the balloons with your butt.
Of course. As you do. As
you do. And I was doing that minigame, Jaren, and I think maybe I squatted down too far, and my pants exploded.
So another type of popping.
Jaren, oh man. I guess it
was
wasn't
a nice pair of pants.
It was a pair of shorts. It was a very comfy pair of house shorts. And
no, Matt.
I'm very sad to lose them.
I always hate when I lose some comfy house clothing.
And it's like that. It's not really basketball shorts, but it's that kind of material that's it's almost like netting or mesh. I don't really know how to describe the material.
Right.
But it's not the kind that you can sew back together nicely. So I can't even, recover the pants or shorts.
So Matt, did you have to lay them to rest?
I had to lay them to rest, Jared. I put them out with the garbage this past garbage day.
You hate to see it, Matt. You hate to see it. But were you able to... Well, I guess with the past tense, and you said you were enjoying WarioWare, did you put it down for good in tribute to your fallen ally?
Actually, no, Jared. I think I'm still having kind of some fun with it.
Okay.
Actually, I was maybe 2 levels away from finishing that game when we were talking about it last week. So I've kind of just been doing the kind of endurance mode and I've been having a lot of fun with it. It really speeds the game up, and it makes me feel like I'm I don't know, being slightly active.
Okay. Matt, perception is everything, as they say. So if you feel good, then it must be good.
Jared,
that's how it works, right, Matt?
Jared, yep. Jared, I am a true heavy believer of the placebo effect.
Right. Hey, man, that's gotten us through some rocky, the worst, and the best of times. So I, too, love me some good placebo. And I guess while we're here in the corner of, hey, let's catch up on all the games we've talked about in the past. Matt, I know we talked about it at length we've dedicated entire segments to it. But Matt, I finally got around to Cyberpunk's DLC, Cyberpunk 2077's DLC, Phantom Liberty, and I promise our listeners that, this won't be an entire segment, but Matt, that feels like I don't know if this makes sense to you, but for someone who spent around 69 nice hours in Cyberpunk 2.0, the original Night City, I finally got to Phantom Liberty and I finally got to Dogtown, Matt, that introduction sequence to Dogtown, one is a beefy boy, but two, it feels more expensive compared to original Night City, if that makes sense, where I feel like the level of production, the level of set pieces is just something that is a lot more extravagant, a lot more of a spectacle than I'm used to seeing in the original Night City. Like, you can tell there's a quality difference, in my opinion, for those first few, I guess you would say 2 hours or so of Phantom Liberty.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing that I've messaged you twice now is, Phantom Liberty is this pretty dire situation, but I understand why you are pretty much given the ability to move in and out of Dogtown as you please. But I think, and of course you need to do that from a pure gameplay perspective, a pure user perspective. But at the same time, it feels, I don't know, so counter to the story they're trying to tell of me going back and forth when I get a phone call from Carrie or I get a phone call from Blue Moon, where I just feel like the narrative, it's a lot more jarring than me putting off trying to get Johnny out of my head because the shard's slowly killing me. But I don't know, when you were playing through Phantom Liberty, Matt, did you find yourself going in and out of Dogtown a lot? And did you kind of feel the same way, or?
Yeah, I feel like I understand why you could go in and out of Dogtown, but in terms of story pacing, or I guess like urgency, that really did, I think, hurt the DLC.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I fully went out. I actually also was doing the carry missions and, stealing cars for what's his face?
The captain.
Yeah. Jaren, for those car missions, I don't know if maybe this got patched or not, but do you feel like the time is like really, really tight on a lot of those?
Oh, apparently they patched the
I see. Okay.
And I've only done the introductory one. I haven't done it since. I've been doing a lot of airdrops, Matt. Matt, are the airdrops
yes
scripted, or are they kind of random?
I think that the airdrops are kind of random. Like, it's scripted that the locations that they can land in, but like it's randomized on like where it's gonna land and who exactly is gonna be in the area.
Okay. Well, Matt, maybe when I finish Phantom Liberty, maybe we can dedicate a full-on spoiler cast once, another dedicated Cyberpunk 2077 episode yet again. But that was my little check-in. Matt, any other games you want to check in on right now before we get into, Matt, I'm just going to say it, a pretty anime-centric episode of The Mistake Zone this week.
Jaren, when I was messing around with WarioWare, it had been the first time I took was playing really anything on my Switch.
Right.
Jaren, I loaded up Tears of the Kingdom, and I was like, oh man, there's so much stuff to do here. And then I immediately closed it. Just check that I could still, still do stuff. And like, cool, still good.
Matt, now that we're, of course, with the Mistake Zone, we're going to have our year in review, our games of the year, and, our end of year episode eventually.
Yes.
But this might be a bit meta per se, but now that we're, what is it? I think 6 months out of Tears of the Kingdom. Matt, do you, based on the media that you consume, do you feel like discourse on Tears of the Kingdom has kind of shifted where I feel at the time of release, I was hearing a lot more positive, you know, reception to the game of, oh, this is most likely going to be a lot of outlets game of the year towards the end of the year. But 6 months later, just based on the current video game landscape of 2023, have you noticed a shift of a lot of people not necessarily, you know, sorry, I'll rephrase that. Have you noticed a shift where maybe Tears of the Kingdom isn't a lock anymore for a lot of outlets as we head towards the end of the year?
Yeah, I think that like it's really fallen from the 100% a lock as a game of the year. I don't know, maybe it's just like the circles that I'm in, Jaren, but I think that, what do you call it? Baldur's Gate is really like giving Tears of the Kingdom a run for its money.
Yeah, Matt, as someone who didn't follow Baldur's Gate 3's development, didn't back the Kickstarter, I personally feel like I was caught off guard with the release, and so many people were as well, where just since the game has released, I've just been hearing a lot of people who have come to the game, you know, for the first time to really experience what it has to offer. It actually reminds me a lot of when the original Demon Souls came out. And, you know, that was such a sleeper hit from Atlas. No one was really paying attention to it. But the moment it started getting a lot more critical reception, you know, more positive critical reception, a lot of people were really tuning in and realizing what a gem this was, where I've been seeing a lot of high praise for Baldur's Gate 3. And then there's even Spider-Man 2, Alan Wake 2. And yeah, I just feel like now that we're midway through November, it's going to be interesting where not only a lot of media outlets fall in terms of their game of the year, but how our lists kind of really teeter out ourselves, just because I feel like you've played a lot, a good variety of games. And I'll be honest on my end, Matt, where I too was really high on Tears of the Kingdom upon release. You know, that first month honeymoon period, Matt, great. But again, it's the same thing as you. I'll fire up Tears of the Kingdom, see that laundry list of icons that I saved, and think, oh man, this is a beefy boy game still. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what Tears of the Kingdom means to a lot of outlets in the end. But Matt, speaking about our boy Link and our girl Zelda, I feel like there was some news this week that we should probably rap about now that we're at this point. Matt, what was announced this week?
Jaren, they announced that they are going to be doing a live-action Zelda movie.
Yes.
Which, I don't know if you feel the same way, Jaren, but that really caught me off guard. Specifically that it's live action, not that the Zelda movie is happening. I mean...
No, I think we've discussed this in the past, especially since, you know, with the popularity, with the success of the Super Mario Brothers movie. I feel like once those checks started hitting that, Nintendo started looking, okay, what other franchises can we potentially explore when it comes to, you know, multimedia, film, TV, streaming, the works. And we both agreed that Zelda would get there eventually.
Yeah.
But when we think live action, immediately what comes to mind is The Witcher on Netflix, and how the first season was, you know, pretty well received, and then when it came to the second season, not so much. And I'm not saying that I'm expecting similar quality to The Witcher, but for me personally, Matt, that's my only point of comparison when you tell me, hey, we're going to explore a live action Zelda movie. It's kind of hard for me not to compare the two, but for you, Matt, what was your initial reaction to the news?
I was like really thrown off by it because like I'm pretty sure that when we were talking about this topic before, I thought that like if there's gonna be a live action thing, it's probably gonna be Zelda. But actually being faced with the reality of a live action Zelda movie is kind of just throwing me. Just because I don't know, Zelda is just like I don't know. Maybe it's like a precious series to me, so I feel like getting the real magic out of Zelda really could have only happened in a animated form. And I'm concerned with how real lifing Zelda is gonna be done. I'm also like wondering like who they're even gonna like cast as like the characters within the series.
Right. And I think, news right now is pretty, sparse. This was kind of just thrown out there. What we do know, this is coming from Eurogamer, is the live action The Legend of Zelda film will be produced by Miyamoto and Avi Arad, chairman of Arad Productions Incorporated, and Nintendo and Sony Pictures Entertainment will be co-financing. Derek Canoli, Matt. I feel like I just offended a bunch of people by mispronouncing his last name. Canoli will pen the adaptation, whose screenplay work includes Jurassic World, Detective Pikachu, and Kong Skull Island. Matt, not trying to take away from Jurassic World, Detective Pikachu, and Kong Skull Island, but I'm already, a bit hesitant right now.
Yeah.
In terms of the direction it's going. I know with, Miyamoto being a producer and him, you read all those reports that he was really hands-on with how the Super Mario Brothers movie and its direction and how it was coming together, where you would hope that the same love and attention and dedication would be put to the live action Zelda movie. But again, maybe it's because we've grown up with video game live adaptations to film not being the greatest, where I just can't help but be wary until we actually see trailers and casting and actually just to see it for ourselves. But if Matt, when you think of a live action Zelda movie, is there any particular, I guess, game world version of Hyrule that you would want them to explore or at least lift from aesthetically?
Jaren, when I kind of think about a movie version of a Zelda game specifically, I feel like in my head the only one that could fit in a movie is Majora's Mask, just because of like you're in a singular setting. It does have the kind of like time stuff, so you can loop it as much as you want, or alternatively, if they don't touch the time stuff too much, it is like kind of still understandable as a story if somehow Link was supposed to do everything at once.
Right.
But I kind of hope that they don't directly lift any of the games as the movie. I do really hope that it's very much an original plot for the film.
Or as original as you can get, because I'm guessing that the greatest hits will be hit, of course. We'll see Ganon in some capacity. Zelda will play a role. The Triforce, we'll see a Master Sword, a shield.
Green outfit.
A green outfit. Actually, Matt, do we see a... I don't know.
I think I know where you're about to go.
Do you
with that
think
question.
Link's outfit would be in this movie?
I think it'll be like, if it is a green outfitted Link, I think it's like maybe dark army green. Like I don't think you get that kind of vibrant green that Link usually has.
I honestly, Matt, when I kind of think about Link, especially in a post Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom world, I feel like you could you would use Green Link if it was animated or, a
Yeah.
3D movie. Where for live action, I honestly think his default. I know Breath or Tears of the Kingdom. I really like the default Tears of the Kingdom look.
The blue
default
shirt,
Breath of the
Link?
blue shirt with the hood. I think something like that would play better for live action or with some sort of armor as well.
I see.
But I don't know how a traditional green tunic would really fly, especially for live action. But that's just me. That's just me.
I guess mostly I like, if I were I guess pick a Link, the one I picture the most is Twilight Princess Link, since it had a much more muted palette.
And I guess you do have to have the green tunic in some capacity as your central image to denote this is Zelda. Where I guess in the back of my mind, that's the Easter egg, where he has, some sort of armor throughout, but at one point he has to don the green tunic. But that's just me. I'm not a filmmaker, Matt, so I don't know. But yeah, as of today, Matt, scale from 1 to 10, how excited are you for the live action Zelda movie now?
I honestly am sitting at a 5 because I'm very cautious on if this is going to be good or not.
Right. We need to see more, Matt. We need to see more. And I guess to be fair, even with the Super Mario Brothers movie, there was some skepticism there until we did see the first trailer and it hit what it's supposed to hit. But I'm curious to see how I'm going to react as well to this, Matt, just because we said it when we were discussing the Super Mario Brothers movie, where in it, as a film, it's not a good movie, if that makes sense.
I mean, it's very much a kid's movie, right?
It's a kid's movie, but as someone with Mario nostalgia, it hit the right notes. But as you said, Matt, it means a lot more. I feel like my relationship with Zelda compared to my relationship with Mario puts a lot more stakes to this, if that makes sense. To where with a Mario movie, I'm more willing to let a lot of things slide, especially since I know it's a kid's movie.
Yeah.
But with a Zelda movie, and I do think the franchise in itself is a much more, not grimdark mature, but there is a maturity to it where I feel like I would be a lot more critical with the trailer and with the final product. And that's why I'm also kind of cautiously looking from the sidelines until I can have a better idea if I fully want to commit to it or not. But live action Zelda, not necessarily in our bingo cards, but it's here, Matt. And final question. We seeing it in 4DX, Matt?
Jaren, I'm gonna watch every movie I can in 4DX now, Jaren. I love 4DX.
All right, Matt. Next time I'm near the Saturday morning arcade clubhouse, we need to see what's playing in 4DX.
So, Jaren, while we're still in this kind of movie field, Jaren, Jujutsu Kaisen episode 16, I think, is another movie level episode.
Oh, Matt. This is the second time you want to specifically discuss one episode to the point where Matt, should I drop everything I'm watching and just start JJK?
Honestly, Jaren, I think that JJK is an S tier shonen.
Okay.
This most recent episode is honestly mostly a fight episode, and as far as story goes, I don't think it contributed it as much as the previous JJK episode I brought, but fleshing out a character, I think it did just as good of a job. Because I don't know, Jaren, this was very well animated, and it kind of, the art direction for this episode felt very movie-y to me, and it did a lot of the kind of, hey, we're going to switch to ultra widescreen for some of these shots, which I love seeing. It has a lot of kind of shifting art styles within it to kind of emphasize things happening, and I was really about it. Like,
okay,
if you are a person who enjoys shonen and you still haven't gotten into JJK, you're really, really missing out, I think.
and for episode 16, Matt, I know you said that it's not well in terms of the story and how much it pushes the overall narrative. I believe the last one you spoke on was episode 14, correct?
14 or 13. I to be honest, I
Right.
can't really remember the number.
But as you kind of imply that while this doesn't necessarily push the narrative that far out, it's more so a character driven one. And for me personally, Matt, a character driven episode, especially in the middle of a overall arc, can be really hit or miss, and it really depends on how that entire episode is produced. So when it comes to episode 16, how does this character driven episode work in its favor?
Jaren, I think that this episode for this character really kind of just shows off that everybody has been sleeping on what this particular character can actually do, and I really do love I wouldn't really call this a kind of like sleeping giant types, like I guess like arc or reveal or kind of just like growth, but it is kind of similar to that, and I don't know, I really like it. Like it's very, this episode in particular is very, very spoilery to talk about,
Right.
even more so than the previous one, and I think that it is very, very much worth watching if you are a fan of shonen. Even if you don't want to watch Jujutsu Kaisen, 16 is an episode to watch if you want to just watch straight up action.
Okay, so it's pretty standalone and for the most part.
Yeah, I think the episode itself, like if you went in blind, you could very much understand what's going on for the most part.
Matt, I feel like dudes punching dudes is pretty much a universal language at this point. And I have to ask, Matt, if this is a combat intensive episode, how's the choreography throughout it?
The choreography, I think, isn't quite as tight as the previous JJK episode I brought, because this is far more of a characters using superpowers type fight.
Oh, okay.
So it's far more a visual spectacle than it is a choreography spectacle, I would
Okay.
say.
Do you have a preference when it comes to, I guess, these type of combat episodes in a shonen? Do you like seeing a good hand-to-hand sequence, or are you also about just beams and lasers and giant energy balls being flung at each other?
I far more prefer a hand-to-hand or, kind of like lower scale kind of a fight within, I guess, like these like shonen series or action series in general. Just
Yeah.
because I think maybe this is a problem I have that's like come from like tabletop RPGs like D&D, or kind of just like games that scale into that level of power, where at some point it becomes ridiculous on what these characters can do and why aren't they doing like X thing with their power sort of thing.
Right.
Which is why I like kind of power sets that are more so limited to a, like messing up a house level than decimating, like, I don't know, a city level powers.
Okay.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah. Fair enough, Matt. Well, I think every time you bring up JJK or just any episode in particular, it's making me really excited just to kind of finally jump in. I know I am currently watching My Hero Academia. We're on season 6, which was the latest episode. And I believe we have around 18 episodes left until we're caught up. And this is, for the most part, a really intense season, just because once it starts, it kind of goes from 0 to 100 real quick in terms of, hey, this is our overarching conflict. these are our main players and these are the stakes. And we're just going to kind of go all out. And for the last, how many episodes was it right now? I don't know. Dozen episodes that we've watched. It's a shonen, Matt, where at the end of the episode, there's one cliffhanger that will lead you to the next one. And I think in this arc in particular, we have two groups of heroes. One that's doing a raid on a hideout, and then one doing a raid essentially on a secret lab. And when you're jumping back and forth between each, I guess, hero instance, while the stakes are constantly being ramped up, Matt, I said it before, where when I'm watching a shonen or just any anime in general, I don't want like an origin story like in the middle of the thick of it. And at the same time, I do appreciate how in season 6 we are getting bits, like when they do explore a character origin, it's weaved in and out of the current situation. So it's not necessarily fully dedicated to an origin or some history of a character. It's here's what is currently motivating them to do their actions in the present, which is fine. But Matt, at the same time, it's just your typical shonen of just constantly going at it, constant fights, constant battles, constant, hey, even though our heroes seem to be making progress, by the end of it, it's, oh no, something wrong happens, or oh no, this character wakes up, or oh no, they're getting even more powerful, where I honestly feel like there hasn't been any good breathing room, where I think that this is too shonen for me.
I know.
And I don't know, I think when you approach it that way, at the end of every episode, we need to end on some sort of cliffhanger to not only make you want to watch the next episode, but kind of up the stakes, where, oh, how can they get out of this one? I don't know, Matt. I need that breathing room, and I think what makes this the most jarring is essentially when watching over 120 episodes of My Hero Academia in the last 4 months or so. You know, you kind of get the breakdown of, okay, you have a really heavy arc, and then, oh, here's the slice of life school stuff. Heavy arc, something slowing down, but for season 6, for the most part, it's just all, hey, if we don't stop this evil villain organization, where the world's, fucked. Like, I realize I'm missing that come down. I'm missing that slice of life aspect because, Matt, I guess you can't go full shonen, or I can't go full shonen. And when it comes to, as someone who hasn't watched any JJK, how is the pacing overall? Do you have those dips, or is it just all 0, or is it all 100 all the time?
I think there's more kind of like the high action slice of life episode, like 1 or 2 slice of life high action in season 1. The stakes in season 2 kind of like got pushed up, but I don't really feel like it's suffocating in the way that it sounds like you're describing My Hero Academia.
Okay.
So right. I don't know, Jared. Maybe I think it might be worth taking a little break from My Hero Academia and checking out what the Fortnite boys are up to in JJK.
Yeah, I feel like that's the case, just because to me, season 6 of My Hero Academia feels like a response to, oh, you guys don't want the slice of life? Oh, you think for dragging stuff out and nothing's happening? Okay, we're just gonna stretch out this all-intensive, important battle for 40 episodes. And that, it's too much, Matt. It's too much. Like, oh, man. But JJK episode 16, again, you can't really go into a lot of spoilers just because it is so spoiler heavy, but at the same time, your recommendation is there. If you want to see powers getting thrown off, check it out. And if you want to see powers being thrown around for the worst, I feel maybe check out season 6 of My Hero Academia. Oh man, Matt, actually, you know what I especially dislike about season 6 of My Hero Academia, only watching half of it so far?
What's that, Jaren?
For the first 5 seasons of My Hero, whenever it would go into the commercial break, it's kind of like who is that Pokemon, but instead of guessing who that Pokemon is, you have essentially like a hero card of a hero or a villain that says, oh, here's the hero, here's their name, here's their quirk, here's their stats, here's their likes, and here's their dislikes. Matt, I like that. Just because whenever I see a character and I rate, hey, they like pork cutlets, I like pork cutlets too.
Same. Jared? Oh, man.
But in season 6, Matt, it's I guess the commercial cards are just essentially their promo art with a stylized name. And that isn't fun. I want to know what people like.
Jaren, I'm like, even having the kind of like unique character art with their name is something that I don't really see that much anymore. And I really do miss the kind of like commercial anime bumpers that show up in these shows. Like I understand why they're gone, but that was like such a, I don't know, fun thing to see inside of like anime that I'm nostalgic for some reason.
I understand by season 3, season 4, you've seen all of the bumper cards, but Matt, it's good to see. It's good to see what people like. Because in turn, I probably would like that too.
Jared, that's where they can put the slice of life stuff. You know, they could just have, Deku and Co. Hey, yo, we're playing Yu-Gi-Oh.
Matt, do you like a good commercial bumper, or do you prefer a non-kayfabe? Hey, we're introducing the preview of the next episode.
I kind of like the preview of the next episode where they're kind of like you're talking kind of like how like Demon Slayer would do their stuff, right? Yeah. I like me a good like ending skit.
Matt, my favorite is a good ending skit. Here's a preview for the next episode, but non-canon where it's your main character interacting with the antagonist in a situation where they would never interact with each other. I feel like that's premium content that I don't see that often anymore. But Matt, to close it off, if you could give JJK its own commercial bumper cards, what would you like them to be?
I mean, there was actually an episode where they played baseball with each other as kind of just a filler thing, and it just had kind of like stat cards for them, and it kind of just did the thing like, oh, this person likes pork cutlets, and kind of just having that sort of thing again. Or Jaren, in JJK, like I don't think it's really spoilery for me to say, but I think a bumper that I would really like, or even an end show credit skit thing that I would like, is JJK kind of has the equivalent of like Demon living inside the main character and kind of just like watching. I think he's like actively watching what's going on. So I would really, really like just like a bumper where it's either a bumper or a skit where it's kind of just him talking about what happened this episode, or this person is a loser or whatever.
That would be pretty good, Matt. That would be pretty good. Just like episode 16 of JJK season 2. Check it out. Hey, Matt. Speaking about animated action, I checked out the first episode of Blue Eye Samurai. This is a Netflix, I guess one of the Netflix animation releases. I think it recently came out as of November 3rd. All 8 episodes are on Netflix right now, and I watched the Beefy Boy first episode, which I believe its runtime is just under an hour. And To be honest, I'm really glad that I didn't know anything about Blue Eye Samurai going into it. I think we just started watching it and I didn't read the synopsis, I didn't read any trailers where I'm really glad I went in blind just because it made the ending shot a lot more, I guess, surprising to me. Where I guess if you haven't watched Blue Eye Samurai and if you have any interest in doing so, I think go check that out first, or you can skip this entire section and then come back to it just to hear my initial thoughts on it. But of course, Matt, I'm going to spoil the big reveal at the end of Blue Eye Samurai, but just to kind of give you the rundown of it. The premise I'm taking from Wikipedia because Matt, of course, it isn't the mistake zone without me plagiarizing something. But the premise of Blue Eye Samurai is that it's set in Japan's Edo period, where a mixed race swordsman named Mizu is on a quest for vengeance, Matt.
Of course.
Of course, Matt. Where throughout the first episode of Blue Eye Samurai, we do follow Mizu, who is this, as the premise says, a mixed race baby, orphan, really. They have blue eyes, and since it's set in the Edo period, Mizu's essentially casted out. They're an orphan just because they have the mixed blood. Matt, the phrase white devil is used during the, this orphan part. We see Mizu get beat up by other orphans for being an outcast. And essentially, before Mizu is about to have a rock smashed into their head, I guess, Matt, what is it? Is it a meteor or a comet if it lands on Earth?
I think it's a meteor when it lands on Earth.
Okay. Asteroid means it's in space, right?
I think so.
Okay. So a chunk of metal, a meteorite, crashes into the Earth, spooks all the different kids, and essentially saves Mizu, where essentially a swordsman or a swordsman blacksmith by the name of Iji, comes across the meteorite, takes it in. Mizu tries to help them, and I guess for half the episode or so, it's Mizu's upbringing under the tutelage of Master Iji, this blind blacksmith. And during being a blacksmith's apprentice, we see Mizu pick up what it means to be a swordsman, what it means to be a samurai, and them essentially training at night to become a samurai, to know how to wield a sword. And the later half of the episode, we see current Mizu, who is going to this dojo, this sword school, trying to find information on a person. And then we see Mizu's swordplay at work. And in terms of the animation style, Matt, it really reminded me of Arcane, where I actually thought watching it that, is this actually just a League of Legends prequel in some capacity? Where I guess if I were to do a side-by-side comparison, I would say that Arcane did look a lot better. I feel like it was a lot more well-produced. But that's essentially the type of animation you can kind of expect to Blue Eye Samurai. And when we finally do get to see some of the sword choreography, some of the fights, it's not the best fight choreography I've seen, but of course, Matt, we've seen worse, especially when it does come to this kind of animation style being presented. And we are introduced to a lot of other side characters, from Ringo, who is this sheltered disabled cook who idolizes Mizu. We're introduced to Taigen, who is the arrogant swordsman that Mizu ends up fighting at the end. We meet Princess Akemi, who's, again, Matt, this is the Edo period. We have a lot of emperors trying to marry out their daughters for political gain. And it's her trying to make sure that she ends up with Taigen, who I mentioned. And we kind of see all these different relationships at play. But when Mizu finally leaves the, the blacksmith, when she leaves Master EG, she reveals that, hey, I was born to a Japanese mother and a white father. My white father was one of 4 white, I guess, politicians or political figures in the area at the time. And Mizu just wants to go around and I believe just kill all 4 of them. I think that's their quest of vengeance. And I'm sorry, Matt, I just gave away the twist at the end. It's revealed that Mizu is a woman when she jumps out of a hot spring because 4 people are coming after her. And Matt, there is a lot more nudity in this episode than I would expect there to be. And I honestly feel like the nudity is shoehorned in, where the first time we see it is when Mizu does go into whatever kingdom she wanted to go into. She runs into Ringo, and then she sends him into a essentially a hostess, one of those courtesan households, just so they would stop bothering her. And at the end, we see her taking bath in the hot spring, where I feel like the nudity is just there for the sake of being there, of, hey, we can actually have nudity here. So I don't think it really added much to it. I think it did do a lot for the reveal that Mizu is a girl, and I feel like her identity was pretty hidden. It's ambiguous throughout the whole movie, so just the reveal at the end I feel was pretty great, which when I went back, it is just right there in the synopsis on the Netflix page. So again, that's why I'm kind of glad I didn't read through it. But yeah, Matt, during the montage of Mizu's sword training, do you want to guess what song they used for it?
Oh, for some reason, like the first thing that popped into my head was, why can't I remember the song that was like at the end fight of Kill Bill, the first one.
Matt? Were you thinking of Battle Without Honor or Humanity?
That's the one. Was it that?
Matt? Yep, it was Battle Without Honor or Humanity.
Amazing.
And
of course it was.
The moment that song started playing during Mizu's training montage, I thought, of fucking course.
Oh, bad.
When I was a child growing up, I watched Kill Bill. I thought Battle Without Honor or Humanity was one of the greatest pieces of music ever written. And now, as a boomer, mid-30s, in 2023, I hate that every time I see this song used in any media, I roll my eyes, man.
Oh, man. I don't know, Jared. I feel like Kill Bill just gave it a lot of, foreigner and Asia energy.
It's so true, man. It's so true. But speaking about audio choices, I hate to admit it, Matt, but I'm not sure if there's a Japanese dub, but when it comes to kind of the English voice acting, Matt, there's some questionable delivery throughout this entire episode. I feel like there's some. I feel like all the main actors, for the most part, are pretty well. They do give good performances, but it's the secondary characters, it's the background characters, it's the NPCs where it honestly feels like they just went with the first take.
I see.
Some of it sounds pretty awkward, and I don't know. I also feel like it doesn't really fit the whole time period, some of the delivery as well, if that makes some of the delivery and some of the kind of dialogue being presented. But overall, I think Blue Eye Samurai is something that I might continue to check out because, Matt, at the end of episode 1, we have a trailer for the next 7 episodes that, gives, bits and pieces. And I also feel like it hits all the tropes you would kind of expect of a Japanese Edo period samurai piece, with the notion of, hey, here's a mixed race, blue-eyed central character who is a woman, where throughout the trailer being played, we saw, that swordsman she fights at the end of episode 1, who is technically engaged to the princess. Oh no, his quest to get revenge on Mizu ends up with them in, some questionable situations, Matt, of course. We see, this is the period where, firearms and guns are being introduced to a region that is heavily, that heavily uses swords. And, we're seeing dudes getting hella shot right now. Where I think it's hitting... That trailer didn't make me confident in the next 7 episodes, if that makes sense. Where the trailer in itself is hitting all the tropes I would expect it to hit. Where I feel like if I didn't watch the trailer after episode 1, I would be a lot more positive moving forward, if that makes sense.
I see.
I think I want to see a lot more, I guess, innovation when it comes to a story like this being told. And Matt, I thought we were going to get it just because I mentioned earlier one of the catalysts that brings Mizu and the blacksmith together is the space rock that crashes into the ground. The blacksmith is not able to, melt it down or hammer it down to a usable metal. And we find out, so throughout the whole exchange, we see him kind of tinkering away at the metal or this chunk of space rock that makes a particular sound. And when Mizu finally leaves the, her new home, she apologizes for everything and says, the blacksmith is like, take one sword. And she says, I already have one. She unsheaths her katana and, hits it on the ground, and it makes the same noise as the classic space rock. In my sick and twisted brain, I thought, are we going to get space magic? But nope. we get potentially a bitter love triangle because your central character is a woman disguised as a male swordsman. And we have, bringing guns into the area of swords. So I don't know, Matt. Again, I feel like the first episode is pretty well done, except for a few roadblock or speed bumps here or there. But the trailer doesn't make it seem like the most original piece of work out there. But yeah, Matt, that's Blue Eye Samurai. I do recommend for the most part, but I'm not sure if it will surprise me, within the next 7 episodes. But Matt, at least we know that Battle Without Honor or Humanity still has a home in media in 2023. So Matt, at the start of October, I guess, which is a month and a half ago, I don't know how that's come to be, but you released your most anticipated new fall anime, or fall 2023 anime, which you can find on YouTube, which you can find on our blog. But Matt, one of the anime that you listed in your video was the Apothecary Diaries. And I've watched the first 4 episodes. I believe you watched the first 5 episodes. And
Yes.
needless to say, Matt, I believe this passes our first episode 1 check, our taste test, if you will. But in terms of the Apothecary Diaries, now that we're pretty much halfway through the season, Matt, what about it has stood out to you and made you want to continue kind of following it throughout the fall season?
I mean, I think first off, it has been pretty reliably following the manga. Like, I don't think they've really skipped anything up until this point as far as the manga to anime transition is concerned.
Yeah.
I like the art style of that they like brought into Apothecary Diaries. I think it's like very like well animated.
Yes.
And I think that they're like handling the the character interactions and personalities very well as well.
Okay.
But most of all, like as I mentioned within that like anticipated anime video, I kind of just like the setting, and I like the kind of way they slowly unfurl the mystery within each episode to the point where you can like, you can generally get a very good idea of what what's the word I'm looking for? Like the turn is going to be in the episode, and feel good about getting the turn in the episode.
Right. Where Matt, I feel like with the Apothecary Diaries, there's a lot to it that should make me feel really depressed.
Yes.
Where I think about how this whole thing starts, and of course the Apothecary Diaries follows our central character, our female protagonist, in Momo. Mao Mao or Momo?
Mao Mao.
Mao Mao.
Yeah.
And she is essentially an assistant to her father, who is an apothecary. And one day during a delivery of medicine or medical goods, she gets kidnapped and is essentially sold as a lowly servant to the emperor's palace. And you would think that she would kind of harbor this, this anger, this rage, but for at least the first 4 episodes, and Matt, I'm just going to say it, I'm going to assume for the first 5 episodes, Mao Mao is this really, I wouldn't say apathetic character, but to me, it makes it seem like she's making the most of what is essentially a horrible situation. And I think what really is making me stick to the story is just Mao Mao herself, because I think she's a really good central character. And again, it's this, she's not necessarily, again, I'm failing to find the right words, but Matt, how would you describe her attitude throughout the series so far?
I mean, Jaren, I do think that like apathetic is a very good word for like how she is.
Yeah.
She's maybe even more so like a very goes with the flow type character towards everybody. She is very, I want to say conniving, but when I think of that word, it has a lot of like negative connotation to it.
Yes.
And I'm not really sure what the positive or neutral word for conniving would be.
Yeah, I totally know where you're coming from, where she is analytical every
Yes.
time we do see her. She's always thinking, but she chooses to use those thoughts for the most part, for the greater good. And I do like her monotone, pretty much I don't necessarily care attitude, and how it kind of contrasts to something you spoke to before, Matt, of just how vibrant this anime is. Like, I really do like its use of color, and just to see how she reacts to everything, especially what's the prince's, or not the prince, but I believe it's Jinshi, who is the manager of the particular palace that she resides in. Just how she tries to avoid his advances, and it's I don't know, man. It's just a really fun anime that I really do also enjoy the kind of proceduralness to it as well, because each episode, even though there is this overarching story to a degree, for the most part, each episode is its own standalone mystery that Mao Mao has to solve. And of course, by the end of it, she does, where there is a logical explanation to whatever is being asked of her, or a logical solution at the very least. And again, as we follow how she gets introduced to it, how she finally figures it out, and the reveal at the end, where, at least for the first 4 episodes for me, Matt, each one of them has been pretty satisfying once she has established herself as this, capable individual. I'd argue that of course the first episode can't be as satisfying just because she's trying to lay low. She can't, show her entire hand. But as the episodes do go on and we see not only how capable Mao Mao is, but people recognizing her for her capabilities, I think each episode, like episodes 2, 3, and 4, have been pretty satisfying in particular, where I think episode 3 has been my favorite episode, which was that episode, what was it called? Episode 3 was the unsettling matter of the spirit, where by the end of it, I thought that was just a really good love story being told, and Mao Mao not necessarily being a central, well, of course she's the central character, but by the end of it, she's merely a bystander to this overall story that's being told, which I thought was really good. And by episode 4, the threat, I feel like episode 3 so far has been my favorite, but episode 4 I think is just a really impactful episode, just because for the most part we see this level of comeuppance that Mao Mao's able to get that we don't necessarily see in the first 3 episodes, just because she's so stoic. And I think that's why I've also enjoyed episode 4 in general, just because, Matt, when our main character gets their hands dirty, I'll always pop off. But I've kind of spoken at length, but for the first 5 episodes, Matt, what's your general takeaway? What have you been liking about them as well?
I mean, it's the same as you, Jaren. Like, I kind of just like Mao Mao as a character, and her interactions with everybody is really, really does carry the show for me with regards to the anime, and even within like what I've read for the manga, it really carries it as well. Because I like it even more in the manga because it stops being such an, I guess, like case of the week sort of situation, and it moves more so into the kind of a slightly longer arc. I'm honestly expecting maybe like a 2 or 3 episode arc for like a case that, like, continue to tie into each other, and kind of just seeing Mao Mao, I guess, as in the anime, being introduced to all these sections of the world is very, I don't know, it's something I really enjoy. Plus, like, I feel like there aren't too many anime that explore this particular world setting of kind of not only feudal China, but I guess like the kind of emperor view, concubine like part of it. Yeah, which I'm really like, I don't know, glad to see that it's like being finally like getting its, what do you call it, time in the spotlight, I guess, for lack of a better way to say it, because I do think that I don't know, it's an interesting like time and like place setting for any kind of series to take place, I think.
Yeah, I think, of course, as someone who is not well versed in not only this time period, but kind of this political structure, a lot of things did kind of catch me off guard. But I do feel like, its political background, or the era's political background really plays into the story being told and how it is able to utilize it in some of the cases, and where it does kind of make sense, and it even that brings its own fair share of tragedy that Mao Mao also has to kind of maneuver out. But I feel, again, I go to how it's being built on a foundation that is pretty grim when you think about it. But that I feel like that also makes all of Mao Mao's little victories feel a lot more meaningful. Mm-hmm. And I guess it's just the fact that she doesn't really, she doesn't necessarily care about her situation. She's saying, oh, I just have 2 more years here and then I'm done. So hopefully done. But yeah, it's that devil may care attitude that she has that's really sold me on her. And I believe her seiyuu it's Yuki Ao, right?
Oh, I didn't even look who her seiyuu is.
I believe it's Yuki Ao, or I'm not sure if I've pronounced that right. But Matt, as tradition here on the Mistake Zone, I'm on Yuki's page. Time to go to 2019, aka the golden era of the Mistake Zone. What do we have here? What did she do in 2019, Matt?
I feel like just like them female voice actor being in 2019, there's a good chance she's one of the quintuplets. Is she?
She is not.
Damn.
She was Tamaki in Fire Force, though.
Oh, okay.
She's Tanya from Isekai Quartet and whatever.
Right.
I feel like her performance as Mao Mao is, I don't know, it made me fall in love with the character even more, just how deadpan she is. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Matt, really enjoying my time with the Apothecary Diaries. Matt, I know it's not an isekai, but it's the fact that one day she wakes up in an entirely new world. Matt, I like it. I like when a character is shown to be capable and in turn is respected for that capability. So yeah, Matt, in terms of episode 5, without really going into spoilers, does the proceduralness of it all get a bit old, or is it still strong in episode 5?
I think episode 5 is actually the first 2-parter.
Okay.
So it does like kind of like, do the lead in, and then episode 6 is the I think conclusion for 5.
Okay.
Or it might actually still be like a 3-episode thing. I'm not 100% sure. But
okay. And the manga you said is ongoing.
Yes, correct? I believe the manga is still ongoing.
I'm assuming this will be, 12, 13 episodes. Do you think the anime will end or essentially will the anime catch up to the manga by the end of its first season?
Oh, no, I don't think so. There's like there's like a decent amount of manga to still like catch up to.
Oh, really? How many chapters is it?
It's not a lot. Like it's still like sub 70 if I remember right. But I don't think that like they'll catch up to it in 12 episodes. Assuming it is like a 12-episode anime.
Right. Fair enough, Matt. Fair enough. But yeah, Matt, as someone with the background of the Apothecary Diaries, what are your closing thoughts on it, the first 5 episodes so far?
It's doing a great job of telling the Apothecary Diaries like manga story. I think that, like, this is in recent memory one of the more like faithful manga adaptations for like a new show that I've seen. And it's I think overall the anime is like killing it and really, really like putting, I don't know, a lot of like, I guess, like good towards the series.
And this is definitely something we'll be sticking to. And Matt, I think that was another beefy boy episode of the Mistake Zone. And Matt, we filled our anime quota for the month. So
Yep.
Time to go back to video games we've talked about ad nauseum for next week's episode. Actually, I believe Persona 5 Tactica is next week. So
man.
I'll probably try to get my hands on that. And maybe, Matt, maybe I'll reveal my thoughts and put it in the history books on Persona 5 overall. Who knows, man?
Oh, man. Jaren, if you want to make the next episode a Persona episode, I think that's very fitting for our episode 69.
Oh, man, Matt. I think we need a lot of discussion for our special 69th episode of The Mistake Zone. But Matt, until then, I want to thank you, as always, for joining me this week and, of course, editing the episode.
Yo, Jaren, I, as always, want to thank you for hosting the episode.
Hey, thanks, man. I also want to thank Matt. I want to thank Johnny Silverhand. I want to thank Landline Phones. I want to thank Mau Mau. I don't want to thank Powder That Poisons You. I want to thank Hot Springs. And I want to thank Matt. I want to thank good-looking pork buns because, Matt,
oh man,
if there's one thing the Alpaca Diaries have shown me is I love me some good anime pork buns. And Matt, please take it away.
This has been the Mistake Zone, and we'll never be out of battles for honor or humanity.